Morning is how will the president's first foreign visit to the Middle East differ from President Obama's? Here to weigh in is former Democratic Congressman and Fox News contributor Dennis Kucinich. Congressman, nice to see you this morning.
Good morning.
So much has been made,
you.
even just from the moments of that airplane landing at the tarmac with the king coming out on the red carpet to greet President Trump. Stark contrast to the way President Obama was received when basically no one showed up on the tarmac. It was seen largely here as a snub. I remember being on the air at the time. How did you see it, Congressman?
Well, you know, aside from the optics, we have to be concerned that America does take a new direction in foreign policy because that's what President Trump promised. And with respect to Saudi Arabia, as you know, we all know it's been the cradle of radical Islamic terrorism, their connection to 9/11. I don't know why the Trump administration is going to go ahead with a $460 billion arms deal to a country that's been helping to fund al-Qaeda and ISIS. So those are things I hope the president addresses in his remarks.
Well, Congressman, I mean, there's a difference between the government of Saudi Arabia and certain wealthy individuals of Saudi Arabia funding radicalism. There's no doubt that the Sunni form of Wahhabism has emanated from Saudi Arabia in problematic ways. But is it not a good thing if the leadership of that country wants to partner with us to fight extremism, to include ISIS and other elements around the globe? And there's certainly a bulwark or a check against Iran in the cards here, too. So can you see the geopolitical and strategic play the Trump administration is making?
I understand it, but I think that the president's going to need to be clear in his remarks as well as the actions with respect to the actual policies. You're right. I mean, there are certain wealthy individuals within Saudi Arabia who are propagating the Wahhabi Salafist point of view, but we also have to keep in mind that the United States has to set the rules here. And if we're funding a government that is involved in, let's say, Yemen and Syria with al-Qaeda and ISIS promoting this ideology, and you know, it's like there's a flashing yellow light going on here. So I hope the president, I'm glad the president's reaching out. We need our president to be connected to the world, but Saudi Arabia is a good time for President Trump to lay down the law as far as we're not going to go along with funding ISIS or al-Qaeda, and we need Saudis to cooperate to stop to blunt this radical Islamic ideology, which is fomenting war around the world.
Well, part of that, Congressman, is that he's going to be, after his speech, sitting down with leaders in that country. They're forming a new center to counter extremism and find the financing. To your point, again, but the leadership of Saudi Arabia is a part of the coalition to defeat ISIS. They're bombing. They're the second most active bombing element in the campaign against ISIS. So again, making that differentiation will be key. And if the Saudis are willing to go at the financiers in their country, I think we'd all see that as something that's in America's interests.
We have to cut off the funding for terrorists. That's what Tulsi Gabbard and Rand Paul are trying to do. Stop funding terrorists. And a good place to start that operational policy is in Saudi Arabia.
What do you want to hear from the president? We talked about this in the contrast to President Obama, that just his mere presence there is bringing renewed energy to this relationship, renewed show of strength out of the United States by the president going there, where we may have been diminished over the last 8 years with the President Obama's strategy, his deal with Iran. How do you see it?
Well, you know, what the president promised during the campaign was a new approach. President Obama, unfortunately, kept us in wars in the region. President Trump said he's going to concentrate on America first. I think a lot of Americans like hearing that. Now we need to see policies set down that are going to say we're going to come home and take care of our problems here instead of getting entangled in all these wars all over the world. President Trump's certainly in a leadership position to do something about that and following through, and I think all of us want to see him do well as he travels abroad.
Yeah, I think that is well said. We will hear from the president himself in a short time here on Fox and Friends. Congressman, good to have you with us this morning. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And as we do these interviews on the screen, we continue to show live shots in Saudi Arabia of foreign leaders arriving at the